The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps says it has eliminated a group of infiltrators inside Iran. According to the IRGC, a 5-member armed team was killed in northwestern Iran, highlighting how security forces are actively confronting hostile groups along the country's volatile border regions. Iran is now on high alert after Israeli officials vowed to hit the country for a third time. As Israeli leaders talk openly about gearing up for war, a top Iranian commander is publicly cautioning the United States to think carefully about its next moves. With emotions running high ahead of Ali Khamenei's funeral, Iranian officials are urging both Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu to avoid miscalculations, warning that any misstep could trigger a dangerous chain reaction. On July 2nd, the IRGC announced that its forces had killed a 5-member armed team in northwestern Iran, describing the operation as a successful strike against hostile infiltrators. The encounter reportedly took place during an ambush in the rugged border heights of Piranshahr, where Iranian units say they intercepted the armed cell before it could carry out its mission. According to the IRGC, the group had slipped into Iran's northwestern border areas just a day earlier, suggesting that intelligence units were closely tracking their movements from the moment they crossed over. After the clash, IRGC forces say they recovered the bodies of the fighters along with their weapons and equipment, using the haul to assess who they were and who might have sent them. Kurdish armed groups have long been active in Iran's northwest, and the IRGC regularly reports clashes in these regions, underlining how this area remains a persistent hotspot of insurgent activity. Notably, just a day earlier, Iran had deployed additional soldiers and rapid reaction forces to its western borders, signaling that Tehran anticipated heightened security threats along these frontier zones. Tehran ordered rapid reaction units and special forces into the field after a police officer was gunned down on July 1st, describing the move as a necessary step to prevent further ambushes on its security services. The deployment was formally announced by Army Ground Force Commander Brigadier General Ali Khamenei, who framed the operation as a coordinated push to stabilize the situation and reassure local communities. In recent days, a wave of attacks has targeted both security forces and civilians in Iran's border provinces, highlighting how fragile the security environment has become along these contested frontiers. State media have linked the incidents to foreign-backed terrorist groups, accusing hostile powers of trying to destabilize Iran by arming and directing insurgent networks near its borders. These flashpoints sit along Iran's western borders with Turkey and Iraq, both American allies, which feeds Tehran's suspicion that its enemies are using neighboring territory as a staging ground. On July 1st, a police officer was killed by gunmen in Sistan and Balochistan province, in an incident that authorities say bears the hallmarks of a coordinated militant attack. Just days earlier, on June 27th, 2 law enforcement officers were killed and 5 others wounded in an armed assault in Kurdistan province, further inflaming tensions in the region. Tragically, 2 civilians, including a 3-year-old girl, were injured by ricocheting bullets in the same attack, underscoring how these clashes are spilling over onto ordinary families. In a separate incident on June 29th, 2 members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps were killed and 2 more wounded in Kermanshah province, adding to the growing casualty count among Iran's security forces. At the same time, Iran's judiciary chief has called for legal and diplomatic action against the United States and Israel, accusing them of terror funding and demanding international accountability. Iranian media claim that U.S. and Israeli officials have effectively admitted to providing arms and equipment to groups operating inside Iran, citing these statements as proof of foreign involvement in the unrest. They point in particular to an April 6th remark by Donald Trump, who said that during the war, weapons were sent via Kurdish channels to groups operating along the Iran-Iraq border. Reports in Iran further allege that the U.S. smuggled thousands of Starlink terminals into the country during the December-January riots, aiming to support anti-government networks with independent communications. As Iran expanded its security cover nationwide, a top general delivered a direct warning to both the United States and Israel ahead of Ali Khamenei's funeral, making clear that any attack would be met with force. He cautioned Washington and Israel against any miscalculation, stressing that misreading Iran's resolve or exploiting the sensitive funeral period could lead to unintended and severe consequences. Major General Ali Abdollahi declared that Iran's armed forces are fully prepared to give a harsh response to any threat, emphasizing that the country's military posture is both defensive and deterrent. His remarks came just days before the funeral ceremonies for former leader Ali Khamenei, a moment of national mourning when Iran's leadership is especially wary of external pressure or attacks. Ali Khamenei's funeral ceremonies are scheduled to begin on July 4th, with his final burial planned in the holy city of Mashhad on July 9th, events that will draw huge crowds and intense security. Abdollahi's warning also coincided with Israeli officials vowing to hit Iran for a third time, even as diplomatic talks continue, feeding fears that the region could tip from shadow conflict into open war.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.